can hear me clearly, if you can see me clearly in the video, put a 1 in the chat box. Put a 1 in the chat box if you can see me and hear me clearly. Well, guys, again, I thank you for coming on the stream tonight. I've been experiencing, I should say, a lot of technical difficulties for reasons I don't understand. I don't have any control over. But for those of you that can hear my stream right now, again, I thank you for getting on the stream tonight. I thank you for taking the time out of your schedule, as always. I trust that everyone has had a wonderful day today. I hope that you did. I'm going to talk about tonight a subject title that may trigger many of you, but I want you to do this. I want you to look at it and listen to it from an objective standpoint. Not from an emotional standpoint, from an objective standpoint, so that you can actually hear what exactly I'm trying to say in the talking point tonight. It's dealing with a subject that all too often, a story or a narrative that is all too often sold to many women in general, but black women in particular. And that notion is that God will send you a husband, and as a result of God sending you a husband, many of you ladies are willing to wait. I mean, even wait to the point where it's too late to make a decision as it relates to securing the thing that you say you want, which is a husband or marriage. That in and of itself poses a major problem. It poses a major problem in so many different ways. You've heard me mention in several different streams that 1 in 4, according to the data, stats, and statistics, according to demographics, blackdemographics.com, by black people, for black people, and the U.S. Census Bureau, that 1 in 4 will marry in a lifetime. That being true, that means 3 will die by themselves. Why is that important? Why is that important? And why do you keep hearing those stats and that data? Very good question. And I'm glad that you asked, because here's the problem. For many of you ladies that are committed churchgoers, most of the black community, if you question them as to what religion they claim, most will tell you that they're Christians. Myself, I'm a Christian. I've spent many, many, many years of my life as a Muslim. I later went back to Christianity. So many of us are Christians. But I want to say this to you. For those of you that are committed churchgoers, you know that when you walk into your church, the predominant number of members who are congregants, they are women. Very few men. Very, very few men. Females outnumber the membership in church. And most of the women that are in that church are, in fact, single. You may find some who are married, of course, because you're always going to have these anecdotal situations where there's a few that are married, of course. Okay, that's why you speak in generalizations, because you can't speak for everyone. But I will tell you this, and I'm sure that you can bear me witness, that most of the members in your church are women who dominate the membership in that church. Not only the membership do they dominate, but they also dominate the ministries in that church. And most of whom are single, without a husband. This is a problem, because most of them, if you question them after being single for a long, extended period of time, many of them will tell you that they're waiting on God to send them a husband, as if nothing is required of them to get a husband. I will tell you this, and I'm going to dispel a myth. This is not a touch and claim situation. Not at all. Even though many of you have been told that it's a touch and claim situation, it's not. Now, this is going to sting what I'm going to say next. God has nothing to do with you getting a husband. Just let that settle in for just a second. I know you've been told that God has everything to do with whether you get married or not, or whether you get a husband or not, or whether someone even shows the interest of proposing to you or not. But I'm going to tell you, marriage, proposal, a decision to be in relationships or to be married is a natural choice. It's not a spiritual choice, it's a natural choice. It's a natural choice. And again, God has nothing to do with it. Marriage, in fact, is and always has been a natural decision. Marriage is not a partnership. Your role on the planet as a woman has been, always will be, and is today. And then this is going to sound absurd for this modern woman who has sold themselves to this new age mentality as it relates to relationship. And that new age mentality tells you that you don't have to be in relationship unless it's some kind of partnership. I want to bust that bubble. A woman's role on the planet, right, is to a man. That's your role. That's your role. On the planet. Has nothing to do with your job. Has nothing to do with your salary. Has nothing to do with what you've purchased in the earth, what you've acquired. It has absolutely nothing to do with any of the things that this society and this world has made the modern woman believe was associated with relationships, long-term, that leads up to engagements and then ultimately marriage. It has absolutely nothing to do with what you've acquired. It has everything to do with whether you are in fact a wife. A wife is found. For those of you that go to church, you know the scripture, and this is not a religious channel, but I'm speaking to those of you who consider yourselves Christians like I consider myself. It says that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor with the Lord. That's the word. That's that scripture that deals with you and what you need to be in terms of marriage in and of itself, which means when he found you, you are already a wife. If I find a diamond, or I find a nugget of gold, was the gold gold before I found it? Or did it become gold after I found it? If I find a diamond, was it a diamond before I found it? Or did it simply become a diamond after I found it? And likewise, ladies, were you a wife when he found you? Or were you already, or did you become a wife after he found you? See, the paperwork that you fill out and sign your name to does not all of a sudden, by osmosis, make you a wife. You have to be one long before the paperwork is signed. Like the diamond is the diamond long before the finder finds it. Like the nugget of gold that was a nugget of gold long before the finder found it. Anything that you find, it already existed before you found it. The gift to the finder is finding the asset. That's what makes the finder excited, because they found something that represented what? Value. Sadly, today, you can't find much value when you start to look for what's described as a wife. You find a female, yes. I know some of you ladies are saying right now, well, we can't find too many men either. Well, I won't argue with you there. But tonight, we're talking about you ladies who hold to the notion that God is going to send you a husband. And I want to say to you, no, he's not. No, he's not. You have to be a wife first to be found. Many of you are very committed in your church. You're on the choir. You sing in the choir. You go to every major church function there is. Right? You're involved in every fundraising program that your church holds. You're involved, no doubt. You're very involved. And you do your best to be involved in community outreach. You do your best to be the best version of what's described as a Christian. And here's what happens with you. While you remain single and going into old age, as you age, you still don't find yourself getting the results of what your pastor or what your bishop or what your minister is telling you as it relates to the principles of what wife is and as it relates to how you are found. So many churches don't have what's called a marriage ministry. A lot of churches don't have it. Perhaps your church doesn't have it either. And if they do have it, how aggressive is the program in terms of ensuring that you, as a single parishioner or a single congregant, finds the outcomes that you say you want as it relates to marriage or finding a husband? How aggressive is the program? What I found and what I'm finding and what I feel is happening is that most churches have fallen into the narrative or into the popular notion of touch and claim. But what I found is that this notion of touch and claim has not become successful. It has not gotten the results for women that they need and that they want and desire in terms of relationships nor marriage. Instead, they've medicated on the faith that they believe in, and many have come to the conclusion of saying, you know what? Jesus is my husband. No, he's not. No, he's not. The pastor won't tell you the truth, because if he tells you the truth, the reality of that same truth will cause you to become discouraged and perhaps leave the church looking for a new church that'll give you the same notion and teach the same narrative that that previous church was telling you as it relates to relationships and or marriage. See, the delusion is thick. The delusion is so thick. But ultimately what it leads to is many of our women in general, black women in particular, finding themselves aging out and still finding themselves single. Now, many of you that are younger, you may not think this is serious as I'm speaking it. But I will tell you this, you will find out just how serious what I'm speaking is in due time. In due time. Because one thing about time, it never stops moving. It catches up to us. And it sounds a little bit like this. That's what it sounds like. And it doesn't stop. It continues to tick. As you age, and as you begin to believe that it doesn't require anything of you to get the outcomes that you say you want. The notion that this Disneyland romanticized idea of what marriage really is and relates to, and it's titled as love. Okay, let's talk about that. I did a stream previously, not too long ago. And that stream was entitled, "What Does Love Have to Do with It?" I will tell you, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. See, because the elders before us, they were married for 30 and 40, 50 years. I will tell you this, love had nothing to do with it. I'm gonna tell you what made that work. It's called duty. Duty. That's all it was, duty. See, because when you meet someone in relationship, love really is not there yet, right? For some of you that are already currently married, you know you didn't love your husband when you first met him. That whole feeling, that fuzziness about the relationship happened over time. And it's funny how 85% of all marriages are dissolved by way of divorce, by way of a female filing for that same divorce. And then another 80 to 85% who are engaged are also calling off the engagement. So it's telling you right there, it's not this fuzzy feeling that you have. This fuzzy feeling is a fleeting emotion that goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and it has no foundation to it. It's not sustainable. So what really keeps a relationship together as it relates to a husband, a true husband, and a real wife? I'm not talking about what took place on black and white, what took place on paper. That's just paper. That's all it is. It's paper, and it requires you to use a pen to sign on the dotted line. That's it. Did that make you a wife? That made you no more of a wife than it made him a husband. So I want to ask you a question. What in fact is God sending you when some of you say that God is sending you a husband? Can God do all things? Absolutely. Absolutely. But understand where he operates in. And again, as a disclaimer, this is not a religious platform. But like you call yourself a Christian, I am myself am also a Christian. So I want to say this to you. At what point does a natural decision flow into what spiritual decisions dictate? Marriage is, in fact, a natural decision. It's a natural decision. I want to say this to you. Many of you ladies describe marriage as a partnership or a business. Okay, well, let's go with that. Because if it's a partnership in a business, that's a practical decision. Business in and of itself is a practical decision, not a spiritual one. So, for some of you ladies who describe marriage as a partnership, you're talking about a business term. This is not a spiritual term to say partnership. When you say a business in and of itself, or working together to achieve things, you're talking about practical decisions. You're not talking about spiritual decisions. The institution of marriage, yes indeed, is something that was instituted by the same God that you believe is going to send you that husband. But let me ask you a question. For every marriage that happens in this country, does God have anything to do with it? Most do not. And if it did, that would make God responsible for the mess that we see in the society and within our communities as it relates to marriage and relationships. It would make him responsible for the 85% of all divorces that are filed. It would make him responsible, and we know that's not true. It would make him responsible for all of the engagements that are called off, of many of which are called off by the silliest, most immature reasons, most ungodly reasons that you could possibly imagine. So we have to be kind of careful about what we say God is going to send us. Ladies, do you not think that there is something you are required to do before putting the responsibility on the God you say you serve, by saying God is going to send me a husband? Where is he going to send him from? If 85% of the men in your own community who are good men, which you've heard me mention on so many different streams, I talked about their medium income. I talked about the medium income of black women in this country. I've talked about this data and these stats and these statistics. I've talked about this. If 85%, if it represents the 85% of the country, that's a very large number. Many of you ladies, while waiting for the husband that you say God is going to send you, you've already met him. You've already met him on more than one different occasion. You've met him already. What happened? What happened? How many husbands is God going to send you, for many of you ladies, before you realize that there's something that you have to change to become the thing he finds? See, I will never stop saying this. We attract who we are. This is what we do. We attract who we are. A husband who's truly one can no more attract or no more identify a wife than a squirrel can identify a rabbit. You attract what you are. If he's a husband, he's going to identify a wife because she's found. He will identify her because he knows what he's looking for. He knows exactly what he's looking for. The institution of marriage is not religiousized. It is, in fact, not only a practical decision, but it is a natural decision, of which after the institution of marriage is had, then you begin to incorporate the spiritual principles involved to keep the marriage together. But the decision in and of itself has nothing to do with God. He does not involve himself in your ability to make decisions. That's why human beings have a thing called free will. Free will is a human instinct that was given to us naturally from God. He does not interfere with his own will. We were all given free will, right? From the author of will. That's where we got it from. That's why marriage is a natural decision. Ladies, who are you to get the outcomes that you say you want are your wife. It's not what you want, it's what you are that determines the outcome. That's all it is. It's not what you want, it's who you are. And I will tell you this, I don't begrudge anyone for wanting what they want. I don't begrudge anyone for wanting what they want. I think every human being has a right to want whatever they want, irregardless of who likes it or not. Because that's the only area that neither one of us have control over, because free will is what it is. But can you get what you want? Can you get what you want? And I'll tell you, I've been in so many churches, so many, most of which are populated heavily by women in general, our women in particular, who are unmarried. If you were to ask those members to stand up, all the married women, please stand up. A few would stand. And then turn around and say, well, all the women who are unmarried, please stand up. You'd find out 3/4 of the church population or membership would stand up all at the same time. Many of whom are probably the most committed members in the church. That's one thing you will find. The most committed members of the church, the most dedicated members of the church, in most cases, what I've seen are single women in general, black women in particular. Very committed. You got a lot of time on your hands. There's no husband that you have to go and deal with and serve. You got a lot of free time. The only thing you have that's holding up your time is your job. The job or profession that you currently have, that's what's holding up your time. Outside of that, you got plenty of free time. You can do a lot of volunteer work, a lot of things. In fact, you spend more time volunteering and doing community service activities because your time is so expansive. You have so much time. But is that getting you the results? Like I said, in every stream, we are better together than we are apart. And it really is. I promise you, ladies, it really is. It's about getting to the end of life. Because since we all have to get there, there's no way to avoid that. It's going to find each and every single one of us. But how are you getting to the end of life? I think that's very important. I think that's very important. You know, and I will say this too. The desire for marriage, it's a fair request. But the consequences of living in a society that negates the importance of relationships and marriage, it prevents most people from reaching that goal. For instance, you can pursue someone romantically, right? You can pursue someone romantically. But that individual may choose to ignore you. A crisis they could encounter, it could hinder you. Or that person may decide at some point to simply leave you. Why is that? It's because of the fallen state and the mentality as it relates to relationships and marriage have become so perverted, so turned inside out. It poses numerous barriers to good relationships. Therefore, when you get in one, it starts off feeling like it's good, and then finally it falls off the cliff. Even in religion. Because I will tell you this, and you may not know it. Every religious organization, I don't care what the name of that religious organization is. I've done the research. Every religious organization, from Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and the list just simply goes on. All of them are suffering from the same level of divorce and broken relationships as the world that they claim they're separated from. All of them are suffering from the same exact thing. It begs you to ask yourself the question, what is the problem? What is the problem? Now, one thing I've found, to my sad regret, is that in this modern time that we live in right now, the world in and of itself really doesn't care about the disparity between those that are married and those that are unmarried, those that are divorced and those that tend to save their relationships or marriage. The world appears as though it doesn't even care. As a result, this lack of concern has caused most of the population to follow suit in believing the same thing. The same thing. So that even when marriages find themselves doing well, soon as a problem arises, they find ways to dissolve the relationship and walk away. It's like getting upset at a job, and everything was going well for just a few minutes or a few months, and then one thing disappoints you or angers you, and right away you throw the baby out with the bathwater. That whole till death do us part, for better or for worse. I mean, if many of you pay attention to the vows today, to show you how sadly the whole institution of marriage relationship has fallen off the cliff, you'll see that they've removed that verse. They've removed that out of the vows. You don't even hear that anymore. Better or for worse. No, you don't hear that. You don't even hear. Listen to every marriage that you've ever heard. You don't even hear that verse anymore. You don't even hear it. It's been completely taken out. Why? Because the modern mentality, the modern woman today, gets married only for the better, never for the worse. Soon as the worse shows its face, however worse is defined, however worse is described, however worse is experienced, it becomes the reason to walk away, irregardless of what vows you took in the presence of many witnesses and in the presence of God. It becomes irrelevant because now worse has shown its face. The minute worse shows its face, it becomes the excuse. I'm out of here. I'm out of here, man. I'm out of this relationship. I'm gone. I'm out. So, if that's the case, who was really a wife and who was really a husband? I know we all make mistakes. We all were young, dumb, ignorant. I know we didn't know it all. Many of us grew up in single parent homes. We weren't taught. We kind of jumped into this life with no manual. Most of us did. Most of us did. We jumped into adulthood and relationships and marriage for that part. We jumped into it with no manual. We had no guidelines about what to do. We kind of played it by ear. And therein lies the problem also. We weren't given the necessary tools, neither one of us. This is what makes these kind of talking points so important. See, we can talk about what we didn't know. But one thing about information, whether it comes from myself or anyone else like me, one thing about information, you have a perfect message coming from an imperfect vessel, because no matter what message you've ever heard, it all came from an imperfect vessel, including your minister, including your pastor, including your bishop. All imperfect vessels with a perfect message. How much of a perfect message are you listening to? And more importantly, what are you rejecting? You see, nothing happens in a vacuum. Wherever there's a problem, the same God that all of us claim to serve, he brings a voice to speak to a specific problem. Now the question is, are we listening to that message? Or do we decide to kill the messenger because we don't want to hear it? Is God going to send you a husband, ladies? Or, more important, are you a wife to be found by said husband? Because he's out there. He's out there. It's not that there's no good men. The problem is the good men can't find the good women. Because many women in general, our women in particular, have fallen prey to the thought process of independent. I am strong. I don't need no man. While at the same time, as I said before, this is what's happening. You're losing time. You're losing time. And you're aging. You're losing time, ladies. So what are we going to do? We're going to get angry, get upset, not want to hear it. I'm not going to listen to that guy anymore. I'm not going to his Facebook page anymore. I will ask you a question. If that's your decision, is that hurting myself or is that hurting your outcomes? See, because what I'm doing is purposeful. I have a purpose behind what I'm doing. But you need to have a purpose behind what you're doing so that you can get the outcomes that you say you want. That's what this really is all about. That's what Let's Talk About It is all about. It's not about twerking. It's not about the foolishness that we see in social media. It's not about anything that entertains and tickles the ear. No. See, anything that tickles the ear gets no results. And all too often, to my sad regret, many of us, we enjoy having our ears tickled more than we like hearing the truth. When in fact, that's the only thing that's constant. Change and truth is the only two things that's constant. Truth will never change. My truth can be questionable. Your truth, absolutely questionable. But the truth can never be questioned. And there is a thing called the truth. Depending on whether you want to hear it or not. What is the solution? The solution is, what do I have to do as a woman to get the outcomes I say I want? If marriage is in of itself a natural decision and not a spiritual one, what do I have to do to get the outcomes that I say I want? I have to find out what it is that a man wants. And I'm not talking about any old man. I'm not talking about Pookie and them. No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about a man who's marriage-minded and he's seeking a wife. Are you able? Are you visible to be found? What makes you stand out from the crowd and from the noise of what we hear in the society right now? What makes you stick out? What makes you stand out? What makes you special enough that the marriage-minded man will spot you and notice you, like you're wearing a red dress in a room full of individuals wearing a white dress. What makes you stick out as wife material that'll make him spot you, notice you, and find you? Because if you're just a female and you don't represent anything different in terms of your characteristics, your attitude, behavior, how you talk, how you think, how you behave in public as well as in private, if you're not fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, easy to get along with, non-combative, non-confrontational, that means you don't stick out. That means you sound and behave like everybody, which means he's not going to see you except as another female that represents the opposite sex. But what makes him keep you? What makes him keep you is that you are the one in the crowd amongst many who had white dresses on, as an example, but you had a red dress on and you stood out in the crowd. That's what'll make him find you. That's what'll make you special outside of any other woman out there running their mouth talking about, I want to be married. Really? Well, what makes you special? So that the husband, the man who's marriage minded, will spot you and make you stick out amongst the masses, that he will see you as someone different, someone special, and someone that's wife material. What will make you different? What will make you different? We are better together than we are apart. I've used so many different numerous examples in previous streams. I've used some of the most drastic examples to make many of you ladies see the severity of what I'm saying. And I know, I will say this. I'm not going to pretend that the information and the content is something easy to listen to. No, I'm not going to say that. Especially if we've never heard it before, we've never been taught it. It's not easy. And so many other different variables and emotions play into why we avoid information like this. But I will tell you this much. The information is what it is. And we will only get the outcomes that we say we want if we in fact acknowledge the problem itself, go face to face with the problem, and then deal internally with ourselves as to what we need to do to get the outcomes they say we want. It really is, at the end of the day, it's about man and woman, husband and wife, getting to the end of life. That's what it's about. And for those of you that chose an alternative lifestyle, I'm not here in judgment for you at all. But I will tell you respectively that my channel is focused at heterosexual relationships. Absolutely. But again, like I said, I have no judgment towards you if this is the path you chose in terms of alternative lifestyle. I have no problem with it. You get no judgment from me. But for those of you that want a wife, men, there's things we have to do. And for those of you ladies that want to be wives, it doesn't start on paper. It is just that paper. It is just simply that. I'll wait because God is going to send me a husband. No, God doesn't send you a husband, ladies. You, in fact, are found, meaning you are already a husband. And a marriage-minded man who is, in fact, a husband will find you. But you must stick out from amongst the masses of mess that we see in the society and in the world for him to find you. Otherwise, you blend in with everybody else and you become invisible to the men that you say you want. hope this message helped somebody. I believe it was for someone. And I will say this, I thank you all for getting on the stream tonight. Let me see what we got before we close out. Give my thanks for those that got on. Shout out to Khaled. Thank you for getting on the stream. Shout out to Margaret. Love you. And let me see. Shout out to... Forgive me, guys. I'm trying to see everybody. Shout out to Althea. Althea Marshall. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Shout out to my Nisi. Kia. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Love you. Shout out to Gail. Shout out to Abdul. And shout out to all of you. If I failed to mention your name, charge it to my head. Certainly don't charge it to my heart. I appreciate all of you that support this stream. These are important topics that I talk about. I know they may not go down easy all the time. If you can get past some of the delivery and just kind of get the message as it's delivered, I believe it'll do well with us as we go forward, because at the end of the day, the objective is to bring us back together as a community. I don't think there is a community. There's no such thing as saying the word community without relationships. And all too often, many of us are left, women in general, our women, black women in particular, are left alone by themselves, to age out by themselves, when in fact, had better decisions been made, the privilege of taking care of your wife until death would have been just that, a privilege. Not a burden, a privilege. Because that's what we were here to do also, for you ladies, and that is to take care of you, irregardless of the ups and downs, irregardless of the hills and valleys, irregardless of the setbacks, irregardless of the happy days and the not so happy days and the disappointing days. We were still put on this earth as men to take care of you. That was our job. That is our job. But we have to figure out what each of our jobs are and duties are, and remove ourselves, if we can, from the noise of most of the society that thinks they're winning, and get back to the original order of things, because in truth, both of us are completely out of order, and that's why our community is out of order. We are better together than we are apart. Again, I thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Shout out to everyone that sacrificed their time tonight to get on the stream. I am your host, Charles Chambers. This is another stream of Let's Talk About It. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night at 9 p.m. That being said, we are out. Have a good night, folks. Talk to you tomorrow.